Coming up, the Brooklyn Nets lost to the Detroit Pistons on Sunday, but no time to wallow as they'll turn right around on the back-to-back for the Memphis Grizzlies. Jordi Fernandez has notes for key players on the roster, and Cam Johnson wants the league to know I'm available and ready for trade opportunities. We dive in next.
You are Locked On Nets, your daily Brooklyn Nets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, my friends, it is the Locked On Nets podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team, the Brooklyn Nets, every single day. He's Doug Norrie. I'm Adam Arbrecht. We thank you, as always, for making us your first listen of the day. We are 100% free on all those great platforms and let you know that you can continue to have big returns all season long with FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your winning first $5 bet goes through. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. And Doug, oh, the beautiful agony of defeat. The reminder that Brooklyn can lose to anyone in this league, but still a lot to take away from that Detroit Pistons game on Sunday.
The tank was in jeopardy. We were starting to worry about it. Nets were too good. We were starting to have an existential crisis around what it meant to actually win games. And then Nets just bring us all back into reality by losing to the Pistons on Sunday afternoon game at home, 106-92, in a game that they led by a lot early. And it was actually starting to look like we were into real sort of like murky tank waters here. Because if they were going to go, I don't know, have like a winning record and and maybe not losing some of these games, and it really looked like it was kind of shaping up to be that way. But Pistons kind of come on in the second half, and are able to take down a relatively easy win, all things considered. So some definite takeaways. Quick turnaround here into the Memphis game on Monday, but there were some takeaways here that probably speak to things. My guess is that the Nets and we will talk about all season long as this team is like in its current iteration. And that's sort of like the things that might not be happening for some of these guys that the team wants to see happen, even understanding that like maybe wins aren't the first and foremost thing, but maybe development is.
Yeah, it's funny, 35 points in the second half of that game. So that's how you get yourself back on track. They had just won 3 out of 4, the Brooklyn Nets, right? Take away the first 2 games of the season. Brooklyn Nets, winners of 3 out of 4. Although when we came into the year, we did say there are stretches when you go back and look at other historically bad teams where they did win 3 out of 5 games, where they did go on these stretches where you did have your concerns. It's just that it's happened so early in the year, raised an eyebrow or two, certainly on our end. You talk about things that players need to be working on, or themes that are going to be familiar all throughout this season. We'll start with Jordi Fernandez, who was asked by Eric Slater in the post game specifically about Cam Thomas and his low assist numbers. I see frustration, Fernandez said, and that's what we need him to move on from. You're not going to be able to score every time, but you can find a way to help your team score. Today, CT wasn't efficient, and sometimes when that happens, you give yourself up with your cuts or you find your teammates. That's what I want to see. If you're a scorer, but they do certain things to you, then maybe it's the day you score less, but you assist more. That's part of the growth that we all want to see. I think that this is a good sign for Jordi Fernandez, as we talked about. He's not shying away from talking and addressing the areas of players' games. We'll talk about Ben Simmons too, that need to improve. That just needs to be the case for Cam Thomas in a game on Sunday against the Pistons where, okay, you struggled. The shot wasn't there, but far too often you kind of threw your body into the mix and got a lot of things swatted away going towards the basket that were somewhat formulaic or predictable when you were watching it on TV.
It's something that we've just said has to, if he wants to take the next step into like really being a highly respected NBA player, like where there's no kind of like argument about where his status is in the game, like this is the next part that has to come, right? No one's arguing. He can score with the best of them. No one argues against that. I think that one is pretty much solved. I think, in terms of like where he's going to land in the points per game piece and where, like when it all is all said and done in terms of the overall scoring stuff, he's going to land high up in that group. It's this next part that we said has to basically expand so that he's not maybe just a predictable kind of one trick guy, right? And so you can make a whole NBA career off one trick. It's that one trick is super hard to do, by the way. So it's not even a pejorative.
It's an impressive trick. Right?
Of course, it's not even a knock against him. I'm not saying that. Like you'll make a long career. He'll play in the NBA. He's going to play in the NBA for a while. I don't think that is really up for debate. But it's this next part of like how good you can be on a good team, right? So once you hit a certain level, The next question is, how good can you be on an actual good team? And for a guy like him, in terms of his size and his makeup, like Jordi Fernandez is right. Like, he needs to be able to have probably better court vision and just higher assist numbers if the scoring's not going to come. Because right now, if the scoring doesn't come, everyone sort of knows what to do with that, right? Force him in the shots. It's not going to go many other places. And that's just going to be what it is. So I'm not surprised. Again, like when I said at the beginning of the show, what are we going to talk about all season long? I mean, this will be one of them. We talked about this last season too. It said we saw the assist numbers climb for a little bit during, I think, April, and then they fell back to where they were. This season, it's more of sort of like the same. He's averaging 2.7 assists per game on more minutes. He's averaging fewer assists this year on more minutes than he was last year. Yeah, it's only 7 games, but this is what Jordi Fernandez is talking about. He's scoring more. Great. The efficiency's been kind of there, not totally, but this is just going to be a theme. And if he wants to kind of take that ascension, this is what has to happen next. We just haven't seen tons of evidence that it's going to happen.
Yeah, no games. Only one game, the Chicago game on Friday, where he's had more than 3 assists in a game this season. And again, he's shooting at a high volume. And a lot of times, like on Friday night, when he's 11 to 23, right, and giving you 32 points and 4-11 from deep, you go, yeah, this is all working. And then the 4 assists on top of that, you say, doing a lot of scoring, and also that's a good enough number when you're putting up 30 plus points in a game. But you go back in terms of the efficiency, and you can look back to Denver, where he's 1 of 8 from deep. Actually, even the game before that against Milwaukee, 2 of 8 from deep, just 1 of 6 against Memphis, 1 of 7 from beyond the arc in this game against Detroit. And I think, even though Jordi didn't specifically mention the perimeter shooting in this conversation, that feels like it's a big part of it, right? You're going to be a high volume shooter for this team. You need to be a high volume shooter, but how you choose to shoot and how you go about getting into spaces that, if not for you, then for others, I think is as much a factor as anything that we talk about with him. And he was only 6 of 17 from the floor overall against Detroit. The funny thing I will say, it's still a 17-point game, and there is a small part of me that at least gives the caveat here of, now remember, when we came into the year, we said if Cam Thomas isn't scoring a lot, this team is going to lose basketball games. So I 100% agree that he needs to evolve this area of his game, and he needs to find a way to get other players involved. And the start of the year looks like under Jordi Fernandez, it should be easier to kind of run in that mode at times when your shot's not falling. And also, it's hard to wean a young player off of that mentality when he puts up 30 plus points and he's being ball dominant and getting those shots to go. Everyone's in his corner, right? Everybody is pro Cam Thomas doing his thing, until you're losing a game against the Detroit Pistons on a Sunday, and you go, well, you got to be better than that, though. So I get it, even though he is now a 4th-year player, and you'd like to see that advance here a little bit, certainly for him. Coming up here in a second, though, I'll ask Doug about the quote from Jordi Fernandez on one Ben Simmons and whether or not it already feels like his words may be falling on deaf ears. We'll get into that in just one moment.
All right, we'll let you know this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Look, we got those people in our lives. We want to shout them out. They're the ones that are there for us, on the weekends, during the weekdays. They're the people we can talk to, the people we can rely on. This month's all about gratitude. Along with those people in our lives, we want to just make sure we're grateful for. There's another person we don't get to thank enough. That's ourselves. Sometimes it's hard to remind ourselves. We're trying to make make the best sense of everything that's just going on in our lives. It's a crazy world. It isn't always easy. It's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, including yourself. This is where you can benefit from therapy too. It can help you remind you about being grateful. It can help you remind you about those people in your lives, but also just taking a look inward on the things you need to work on. You can learn those positive coping skills. You can set boundaries, empower yourself to be the best version of yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. This is designed to be convenient, flexible. It's all 100% suited to your schedule. Just fill out that brief questionnaire. You're going to get matched with a licensed therapist. You switch anytime, right? It's just no additional charge. They want to make sure it's working with you and for you. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
All right, so as we continue today's Locked On Nets episode, talking about not only coming out of the loss to the Detroit Pistons, but now a back-to-back for Brooklyn and the return of the Memphis Grizzlies here, who they beat a few games ago earlier in the season. The other quote that came out from Jordi Fernandez was in regard to Ben Simmons. And this isn't necessarily, I thought the one around Cam Thomas was insightful and just very clearly focused. It's things that we know, but it's good to hear a head coach articulate that in a way that you say, yeah, like this is something that he needs to grow into. The one on Ben Simmons is a little bit different because this is like the fourth time that Jordi Fernandez has said something along the lines of, I want him to shoot more. My goal is to have him have 10 shots per game. He's got to find a way to get there. He hasn't gotten there, but I know he can. Those attempts need to go up. He's more than capable. This is different than fourth-year player Cam Thomas finally maybe getting into consistent minutes, game over game, and all that stuff we've talked about with him. This is Ben Simmons, guy, I mean, I'll ask you, even coming off the injury, there's still no wiggle room or no grace period for it because, again, Sarah Kustok pointed it out live on the broadcast. Here's another example where Ben Simmons shies away from attacking the paint. It's nice when he does it, but then there's 70% more of the sample that when he does not do it, and you just see it. It's so visually disjointed from what NBA basketball should look like when those opportunities present themselves for a player of, quote unquote, his caliber.
I mean, it's like telling my kid to clean a room. Like I can say it as much as I want. It's just is it going to happen? I'm not sure. Like I don't. It sure doesn't seem like it, right? It sure doesn't seem like it.
Results don't seem to indicate that she's going to get down on cleaning.
Me talking a lot about it doesn't seem to have any real tangible results to it, and that's how it feels here. It's like, what are we talking about? He can't do it. He either can't or won't. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm not sure it even matters at this point. We're multiple seasons of this. Everyone can say whatever they want. Everyone can beg whatever they want to do. He can't or won't do it. We can make a mashup of times and games where he should take a shot or turn his body to the basket, and he just does the exact opposite. Yeah, he's got great vision. What saves him in this, it's not even saves him, but what saves him is that his vision is completely elite. Like he has not lost any of the court vision. He can make quick trigger passes with the very best of them in the league. He has that in his bag. And he just defaults to it every time. Sometimes those passes look great. He had a couple awesome passes in this game too, and has had them for this whole season. The problem is, it's like the opposite of Cam Thomas, frankly. It's Cam Thomas defaults shot, then no pass. And you're like, come on, man, we got to like look around the court every once in a while. Simmons is literally the exact opposite. It's pass. It's like, hey, man, every once in a while, let's just get that face toward the basket and like take it there when we have a lower defender. He just does it. It's kind of sad to watch, honestly. He just doesn't do it. It does not matter what Jordi Fernandez says. He's not going to do it. He doesn't want to shoot. It's in his head. He doesn't want to turn. He just is afraid he's afraid of something to happen or just can't do it. He's got the yips, whatever it is, and he's just not going to do it. And so he goes out there and goes 8 straight games with 10 shots. Then, okay, I'll come on here and we can just do the full apology tour. But they like up until that point, what are we talking about here? He takes 4 shots a game. He has almost as many fouls as points this year or shots, right? Like he just doesn't want to do it and he can't do it. And I just I literally don't know what will change for him. And we're not going to see this game because he's out, but I just not sure how much more, what is there to dissect here? He just doesn't want to shoot. You saying, please shoot again, is like having my kid clean a room. She's not going to do it.
Cam Johnson, Dennis Schroeder, Cam Thomas, Dorian Finney-Smith on the floor. Ben Simmons off 70 minutes and 11 net rating, 138 offensive, 126.95 defensive. So there's certainly something to read into it there. But you put him into that mix, and it's 61 minutes of minus 6.44, a 106.15 offensive rating in that category. So, now it goes beyond just what he does or doesn't do, but it's also the value to the rest of the team. And so I want to get to the question on what you do with him here if you're Jordi Fernandez in this type of season. But I will just say, you mentioned it there. Cam Thomas and Ben Simmons are like ships in the night in terms of things that you want guys to be doing, right? Like the one guy cannot find a way to physically shoot the basketball. The other one is not quite an identical ship in terms of Thomas, having a hard time maybe leaning into facilitating and finding others. That's more feels like let's continue to develop that. Now, maybe we will look back another year from now and say, no, Cam Thomas is in the same mode. If he can, he's choosing not to do more of that, right? But that doesn't feel the same when you talk about Ben Simmons and his struggles. Do you think at some point here, Jordi Fernandez is going to need to say, all right, that's it. Then you're a guy that comes off the bench and your minutes are getting reduced until you show me that you take X number of shots over X number of minutes. I cannot, beyond what I need to run you, right? Beyond utilizing you for your defense and for your court vision, I can't treat you like a guy that can shoot X number of shots over 25, 30 minutes. You're a guy that cannot until you prove otherwise.
I can't believe they haven't done it already. They just have Claxton there. Just start Claxton. He's the guy you paid. He's better. Like, he fits better with the guards.
And I do wonder what happens when Sharp gets back healthy, when Sharp gets back on the court, because that will then at least change the dynamic,
Regardless, they just have a center here. He's not starting. They've been wanting to ramp him up. They said they want to see how the hamstring fits, maintains in the back-to-backs. I think it's going to be this. I actually think it's going to be next game. I think Claxton's going to start this game, and because Simmons is out, right? Or he's going to come in quickly, and they're going to say that he's healthy and he's good to go. And then he's going to start going forward. I just don't know how long. Again, the classic Nets. They kick we joke about this all the time. They kick every hard decision down the road by resting guys on back to back. Someone gets injured. Like, they just never have to have made these hard decisions. They did it with Cam Thomas forever, right? And now they've been doing it here with this. Claxton gets injured to start the season. They can manage the minutes. They can go into the guise of sort of ramping up or whatever. They can give Simmons the chance to start. By the way, it probably was like this. It was like, hey, we'll give him a chance to start. If we go 10 games into here, 7, 8 games or whatever, and he's doing all those things, then great. And if he's just giving us an excuse to not start him, that's fine too. I actually believe that's what this is. And I think they're going to make the change. It's insane that they haven't already. I mean, the numbers, even if you factor in that Claxton gets to play against the team's second units. Okay, whatever. Simmons on, Claxton off, minus 12.6 net rating in 140 minutes. Claxton on, Simmons off, plus 3.29 net rating in 122 minutes. Even just factor in that some of the matchups are a little harder for Simmons. It's still gross.
Yeah, and the real problem here is just that you're talking about again. It's like, use Claxton as the example. Does Claxton have a real shot to his game? No, he doesn't, right? We know that. But there's even in the instances when you think, okay, Nicholas Claxton's going to get fouled and he's going to go to the line. He's not a great free throw shooter. Okay. At least he's attacking at the basket when the opportunities come. There's never a time when you look at Nicholas Claxton, on the court and say, oh, he's functionally not performing his role or trying to perform his role inside of the offensive and, of course, the defensive sets that Jordi Fernandez wants to run. That's the difference here. You have a player on your roster. This isn't anything new. You have a player on your roster who is actively not doing what should be the functional play when you go to run an offensive set. When you get out in transition, and the irony here is, as everyone knows, because Ben Simmons wants to get the rebound and wants to push the pace, he actually highlights the problem that he has in his game and the thing he refuses to do, because he's not a guy that has great court vision and settles down into the half court and orchestrates all those things. No, he pushes the pace. He's often out ahead of defenses. He has the other team at a disadvantage and then consistently finds a way to not just go downhill at the basket, not just attack, not just draw the foul, and not just get himself to the line. So those are all the things that we know, chapter and verse, since he's been here, that have been a problem. And I agree with you. I think it's much easier, especially in a year like this, just to say, okay, this experiment gets to be done. It's an expiring contract. You're not performing the way we need you to. And I also think that Jordi Fernandez clearly has the temperament where he's setting expectations. And if players aren't meeting it, it does seem like there's going to be a negative result here. Room not cleaned, you might get grounded. Now, whether or not you choose to go ahead.
Throw him to the bench and see if it changes. I don't know. Maybe it changes.
Right. Hey,
go to the bench and shoot 8 times a game. And by the way, he's taken 4 free throws this whole year. It's these numbers are
that too is a problem. I know.
You can't defend them. There's nothing to defend. He's taken 0 free throws in the last 4 games. So he's gone 100 minutes without a free throw. This is a guy who's 6'10" and is supposed to be getting to the basket. He never shoots free throws. He shot 4 all season, 4 free throws all season. So these numbers are just, by the way, there's no one even arguing for it either. It's not, it's
no.
it's a straw man thing too. It's there's no one even out there just defending this. It's just is what it is at this point. All right, we got to.
By the way, Nicholas, sorry, coming up here in a second, more notes from this game. A key stat that I'll tell you about Nicholas Claxton that is alarming compared to Ben Simmons, and we'll also give our picks for the Memphis game as our host battle continues. We'll do that in just one moment.
All right, before we get to that, tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. You want to get in on the NFL action, the NBA action. It's all there for you over on FanDuel. You got the money line bets, you got the over-unders, you got more player props than you could ever even get through on a daily basis. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on NFL, NBA. It's all in one place. Maybe you're going to get a hunch in the middle of the game. Maybe you just check out the play-by-play. There's so much more. It's all on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com today. you're going to get $150 in bonus bets. You got to win that first $5 real money bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook.
All right, so as we continue today's Locked On Nets episode, closing things out, we have our pick'em. We both took, I forgot to post this over on social. We were both taking the Nets in the game against the Pistons, so we're both taking an L on that one. Nobody saw it coming. We were drinking the Kool-Aid at least for one more game with Brooklyn. How about this for the stat? Because you're talking about, just before we talk about anybody else we want to, including Cam Johnson here, Nicholas Claxton in 22 minutes was 2 of 4 from the field. He had 12 free throw attempts. He was 4 of 12. The numbers aren't great at the line. Fine. He's bad at the free throw line. 12. It might take Ben Simmons until the All-Star break to reach 12 free throws, let alone do anything close to double digits in the game. So I mean, that's the contrast. It's not about whether or not you can succeed on the secondary component of it. Draw the foul. Okay, you're going to go to the line. Is it going to be bad? Probably. But continue to draw the foul. Do step 1 and live with what step 2 results are going to be. And that's just, again, that high-level contrast between those two players, where you can at least say that Claxton is trying to do everything that is identified as his role as a center for this team. I
think this is going to shake itself. I just think it's going to shake itself out. I think that they, again, got lucky. Lucky in quotes here, but like they got lucky in how the timing worked out with the injuries. There's really not a debate here. Again, maybe even Claxton doesn't start this game. I'm not sure. Like, maybe they started Clowney in this situation last time. I'm just not even sure, but I just don't know how you continue. The other weird thing is that DFS has shot so poorly that I wonder if they move him too. Like, they're just in a weird spot here with a couple of these guys, because it's not like Dorian Finney-Smith has done himself any huge favors about sticking in the lineup over the course of the season either, although at least you can still get this floor spacing. So I don't know. Maybe it doesn't come to a head in the way that I'm saying, and maybe they just don't care enough because this is the kind of season they're having. They're not really trying to go out there and bank W's, but it just is a funny situation. It's just a funny situation. Again, it's one of those things that's so screamingly obvious, but you just never know what's going on behind closed doors with these guys.
Well, and that's also the part, because you mentioned too, it's like, okay, we do know we want to lose some games. And even though you take the victories, you take the 3 of 4 that you had in that run, you are also, to your point, maybe giving Dorian Finney-Smith, okay, yeah, we see it. He probably should go to the bench. We should, Jalen Wilson should be getting into the starting unit. He should be getting more minutes. Okay, fine. But let's just give Dorian Finney-Smith a few more games to see here. And if we happen to lose a couple along the way, so be it. If he happens also to turn it around a little bit and drum up some more trade, potential, that's also fine too. It's funny when we talk about that Pistons game, which is only one, but it was interesting. You say Dorian Finney-Smith, 28 minutes. Now, he had a good game in terms of 2 of 3 from beyond the arc, 3 of 5 from the field, couple, few rebounds, 2 steals, a block, but 9 points. It's like this greatly reduced version. So, lower volume, maybe highly selective. Yeah, then that ends up working out. But we know with this offense, you need to have players that can shoot at a higher volume around Cam Thomas. So then you end up getting Thomas takes 17 shots, and it's Cam Johnson who leads the team on Sunday with 19 shot attempts. Now, only 3 of 12 from beyond the arc, but 26 points. And there's a couple of things there was one nice play from Nicholas Claxton as well in this one, where he had a drop-off assist right around the basket, which is a nice next step for his game as we talk about the evolution of guys. I think Cam Johnson's doing a good job, even with the 3 for 12 tonight, of like sending out the smoke signal to the league that, hey, and he's doing a bit more. He's doing a bit more of the things that we thought he might do, a year ago after they got rid of and the trade and everything. We said, oh, now Cam Johnson will expand a little bit. I'm seeing a bit more of that. I'm actually seeing it more in orchestrating, facilitating, setting up others to go along with the high volume of shooting. And in this instance, giving you the team high 26 points.
Yeah, I just always wonder about this contract. The contract looked like a deal like a year ago, or like, not actually, it always felt like, I take that back. I don't know why I said that. It always felt like a little bit of an overpay, that they paid him a little bit more on like the got you for Durant vibes. And
we thought it would be okay in totality, but then it's only kind of diminished its value, certainly.
Yeah, and then like the league shifted a little bit here with how they were sort of viewing some of these veteran contracts. And there's guys like, some of these guys from the Nets last year aren't even on team. Lonnie Walker, DSJ, these guys didn't even land anywhere, right? And so, and then some of these other contracts like Gary Trent, Tyus Jones ended up becoming sort of like minimum-ish contracts. And you're like, I don't know. Does someone want Cam Johnson for a first-round pick to get us $20 million? It's like even if he is playing well, this is where we've always struggled to understand what the trade value is. I think he's played fine. I think he's done pretty much what you want him to do here. Third-level scorer, can shoot the 3, can play enough defense at the 3, and maybe every once in a while get up to the 4 and be okay. Is he blowing you away? Not really, but he has these kinds of games in his bag every once in a while that has real value for teams that need it. And there's teams that need shooting for sure, right? When you look around the league, it's just a matter of what they're willing to pay. And I think he still gets traded, and thank goodness he's playing okay, right? Because I think it's even still close with him playing okay about what they're able to sort of claw back in terms of his contract. I wouldn't be totally shocked if he was still on the team through the trade deadline.
No,
I know nobody wants to hear that, by the way.
Being here through the whole year, and this may be a played out contract for him as the veteran guy on this roster because of the money.
No one wants to hear that. I'm sure, and everyone's going to say, "Well, you got to trade him." I get it. We know that we want them to trade it. I just want Marks has been stubborn around stuff like this, and there's also this idea that maybe people think that there's all these deals coming through that just really aren't, like that he's swatting away offers. I'm not totally sure that's the case here. And this is not a prime trade season right now. So it's not always the great time to talk about it because nobody's making any trades first 10 games into the season. I guess I just want to, or I guess it sounds like we want to prepare everyone to be like, this isn't some foregone conclusion that he gets traded as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't bet my life on it for sure.
No, and let's remember that the Nets are still going to need money on the books. Cam Johnson's not the worst guy to have making $20+ million on your roster as you go into the rebuild next year and Ben Simmons' money comes off and you make choices about Cam Thomas and how you're going to pay him, right? Like you still got to fill it. And now, and by the way, for the future date, Dorian Finney-Smith's player option, most likely getting picked up. So, that's where we're going to have big conversations about what will Sean Marks be willing to do to move certain players to avoid having that money on the books if you don't want to go another year with that. Before we close out, though, as we say, that's future episodes, which is why you always got to be up to speed with Locked On Nets. Let's give our picks for the Memphis Grizzlies game, and I will just remind everybody that because it is a back-to-back, it's noteworthy that Zaire Williams only played 16 minutes. Clowney's always been playing lower, but 17 for him. Claxton ramping up 22. Even Jalen Wilson, 22 minutes. When you look at that last game yesterday against the Pistons, and 30 for Johnson and 28 for Dorian Finney-Smith, 33 for Schroeder, who had his first really clunker game this season, won't be surprised if you see some of these younger guys, maybe, looks like a Jordi Fernandez plan here potentially. Younger guys are going to get more run here in the second end of the back-to-back, and the veterans ran some pretty significant minutes the day before.
Yeah, look, we know Simmons is out. We know Watford's out again. So I think it's going to be some more of these young guys. We'll see what happens with Claxton. They mentioned that they wanted to see how he felt on the back-to-back. I mean, he's questionable with rest, but I think that he's going to play because this is going to be the testing round to see if he can sort of go. And he's looked great, by the way. There's no short of him just being on the injury list to start. You would never know from his play. I think he's looked totally fine. I think, these are the kind of games they're going to set up well. We already know Simmons is going to sit back-to-back, so that's just going to open up more minutes for everyone else anyway. I think I probably like Memphis here. They look pretty good here, even though they've been dealing with injury stuff of their own to Bane, Marcus Smart. This team has been, you talk about a team that's been injury bit, man, the last couple of years, and plus their own, problems of their own making with Ja at times. But this is a team that just has not been able to keep it all together on the court for an extended period of time. Probably still like Memphis though.
What's the spread on this one?
Plus 5.5. Plus 5. Sorry, plus 5. The Nets, obviously.
Yeah, I'm snake bit off the Detroit game, so I'll take Memphis laying these points here because now you got to prove it again. It's just like the start of the year, prove it again all over for me. So we'll see how the Nets perform coming out of this one, and then we'll break it all down tomorrow.
All right, we're gonna get out of here. Much appreciate everyone that's rocking with us through the season. Make sure you subscribe over on YouTube. We're over YouTube Locked On. Let's get us to 8,000 subscribers, and then make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, wherever it is. Locked On Nets.
Did you guys see the size of that chicken? That's Dirty Steve Stevens from Young Guns.
Oh, one of the all-time great poets. I forgot about Dirty Steve. Yeah, it's I'm not sure that movie holds up. If we're going to be honest,
is that not a highlight? Is that not a highlight?
Dirty Steve's a great character. I got a feeling on the rewatch that one does not hold up. But
they're coming back for a third one, man. You got to, Emilio's on the trail, so you got to watch out.
Are they really? Oh, brother.
Oh yeah, and they're going to bring back characters that you long assumed. This is always how we like to end episodes. Long assumed characters that on film were shot and killed very clearly might be able to make a return. Lou Diamond, I'm looking at you.
I'll tell you right now, in the old movies no one was asking for, that one's got to rank pretty high up on the list. All right, we're going to get out of here. Much appreciated. One of the all-time great posts. We're back again tomorrow talking more Brooklyn Nets basketball.